Hi, my name is Emma Sullivan. I am 24 years old and I live in New York City. I am a university student studying business management. Since I was a child, I have loved learning new languages, and English has always been my favorite. I can read books, watch movies without subtitles, and even write essays with no problem. But when it comes to speaking, I freeze. It is frustrating. People assume that if you can understand a language, you should be able to speak it easily. But for me, speaking has always been a challenge. My mind goes blank. Words do not come out naturally. And when they do not sound right. I feel nervous, self-conscious, and afraid of making mistakes. Today, I want to share my journey. I want to talk about how I have dealt with this struggle, how it has affected my life, and what I have learned. Maybe you are going through the same thing. If so, I want you to know that you are not alone. Growing up in New York, English was everywhere. My parents, Michael and Sarah Sullivan, are both native English speakers, but at home, we mostly spoke French. My grandparents were originally from France, and my parents wanted me to stay connected to our culture. They always encouraged me to learn English, and I did. By the time I was in middle school, I could read and write English fluently. But speaking was different. At school, I stayed quiet during discussions. Whenever the teacher asked me a question, my heart would race even though I knew the answer. I was too nervous to say it out loud. I worried about my pronunciation, about whether my sentences were correct, and about how my classmates would react. In high school, I made a few close friends. Lily, my best friend, and Ethan, who later became my boyfriend. Both were native English speakers, and they never made me feel bad about my struggles. But even with them, I hesitated. I would text them in perfect English. But when we met in person, I found it hard to speak naturally. Then came university studying business. Meant I had to participate in discussions, give presentations, and interact with professors and classmates. That was when I realized I could not avoid speaking anymore. It was not just about English. It was about my confidence and how I saw myself. One of the hardest moments came during my first semester. My professor, Dr. Harrison, asked me to present a case study in front of the class. I had prepared everything carefully. My slides were perfect and my notes were detailed. But the moment I stood in front of everyone, panic set and my voice trembled. My hands shook, and worst of all, I forgot my words, felt as if my brain had shut down. I rushed through the presentation, barely making eye contact, and sat down feeling humiliated. That night, I cried. I told my mom that I wanted to drop the course. I can't do this, I said. I understand English, but I can't speak it like everyone else. She looked at me gently and said, Emma, you are overthinking. Speaking is not about being perfect. It is about communication. No one expects you to be perfect. They just want to understand you. That thought stayed with me, but change did not happen overnight. I started practicing in small steps. First, I forced myself to speak more with Lily and Ethan whenever we spent time together. I made an effort to talk instead of just listening. At first, I stumbled and made mistakes, but they were patient. One day, Ethan told me, Emma, we don't care if you make mistakes. We just want to hear what you have to say. That gave me a boost. Then I tried speaking with strangers. Ordering coffee at a cafe used to be a nightmare. I would rehearse my order in my head a dozen times before saying it. But I started pushing myself. One day, I went to a coffee shop near campus and told myself, no overthinking, just say it. I walked up to the counter and said, hi. Can I get a caramel latte, please? It was such a simple sentence, but it felt like a victory. Little by little, I got better. I also started practicing with language exchange partners. I found a website where people practice English with native speakers. I connected with a girl from Los Angeles named Rachel. We started video calling once a week. At first, I was nervous, but Rachel was so friendly that I slowly started feeling comfortable. Another turning point was joining a student club. One of my professors suggested that I join the debate team to improve my confidence. Sounded terrifying, but I decided to take a chance. The first few meetings were difficult. I barely spoke, but over time I started participating. I realized that when I focused on the topic, rather than my fear of making mistakes, my words flowed more naturally. By my second year of university, I noticed a huge change. I was not afraid to speak up in class anymore. I was not perfect, but I no longer cared. I started focusing on expressing myself, rather than avoiding mistakes. One day, Dr. Harrison stopped me after class and said, "Emma, I have seen your progress. Your presentations have improved so much. You should be proud. That moment meant everything to me." Now, I will not say that my fear of speaking is completely gone. I still get nervous sometimes. But I have learned that fluency is not just about knowing a language. It is about using it even when you are scared. One day, something happened that made me truly realize how much I had changed. It was a Saturday afternoon, and I was at a bookstore near campus, browsing through some novels. A woman, probably in her mid-30s, approached me with a worried look on her face. She was holding her phone and seemed to be struggling with something. "Excuse me," she said hesitantly. "Do you speak French?" and nodded yes. "I do." Her face lit up with relief. "Oh, thank God. My English is not very good and I need help. I need to return this book. But I do not understand what the cashier is saying." I followed her to the front desk. The cashier, a young guy, was explaining the store's return policy. But the woman looked confused. I took a deep breath and translated everything into French for her. She smiled and nodded, then she spoke in French. And I translated her response back into English. For the cashier at that moment, I realized something important. I used to be the one struggling with English, afraid to speak, afraid of making mistakes. But now I was helping someone else who felt the same way I once did. I understood her fear. I knew what it felt like to stand in a foreign country and struggle with words, and for the first time, I felt truly confident in my ability to communicate. The small conversation with a cashier lasted only a few minutes. But when it was over, the woman grabbed my hands and said, "You don't know how much this helped me. Thank you so much." As I walked out of the store, I couldn't stop smiling. Just a year ago, I would have been too afraid to even attempt speaking in a public situation like that. But now I had helped someone simply by using my voice. That realization changed everything. That moment taught me something valuable. Speaking English isn't about being perfect. It's about communication. For years, I was trapped by my own fear. I worried about my grammar, my accent, what people would think of me. But in reality, people just want to understand you. They're not judging every mistake you make. After that bookstore experience, I started noticing more opportunities to practice. One day, my university organized a networking event where students could meet professionals from different industries. A year ago, I would have avoided it. But this time, I told myself, just go and try. I walked in, heart pounding, but I reminded myself of what I had learned. Communication matters more than perfection. I introduced myself to a woman named Lisa, who worked at a marketing firm. She asked me about my studies, and I started explaining. At first, I felt nervous, but then I just focused on the conversation. We ended up talking for 15 minutes. And before I left, she gave me her business card and said, "You're confident, Emma. I like that. Let's stay in touch." Confident me, I realized something important. Confidence isn't something you're born with. It's something you build by taking small steps, pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, and proving to yourself that you can do it. By my 3rd year of university, I was no longer the girl who avoided speaking. I was participating in class discussions, making new friends, and even helping other students who were struggling with English. Then came the biggest test of all, a group project where I had to present in front of 200 students. When my professor announced the presentation, I felt a familiar wave of anxiety. But instead of running from it, I faced it. I practiced for weeks. I stood in front of my mirror, recorded myself speaking, and even asked James to listen and give me feedback. The day of the presentation, I walked up to the stage, took a deep breath, and started speaking. I didn't rush, I didn't panic. I just spoke like I would in a normal conversation. When I finished, the audience clapped. My professor smiled, and in that moment, I felt something I had never felt before. Pride. I had done it. If you're like me, if you understand English but struggle to speak it, please know this. You are not alone and you are not incapable. Your fear of speaking isn't because you're not good enough. It's because you're afraid of making mistakes. But mistakes are how you learn. Start small, talk to friends. Order food in English, join a club. Practice with strangers, push yourself. And most importantly, don't wait until you feel ready. Because the truth is you'll never feel 100% ready. You just have to start, even though I had come so far. I knew my journey wasn't over language. Learning is not something that has an ending. It's a lifelong process. Even native speakers learn new words and expressions. Every day after my big presentation, I felt a huge shift in my confidence, but I also knew that I needed to keep practicing. If I stopped pushing myself, I might fall back into my old fears. So I kept going. I started working part-time at a local cafe near campus. It was a small, cozy place, always filled with students and professionals, grabbing their morning coffee. Working there meant I had to talk to customers every day, take orders, and answer questions. First, it felt scary. What if I misheard someone? What if I didn't understand their accent? But I reminded myself I had already come so far. I had spoken in front of 200 people. Taking coffee orders should be nothing in comparison. Right course, I still made mistakes. One time, a customer asked for mocha with almond milk, and I accidentally wrote it down, matcha with oat milk, when I handed it to him. He gave me a confused look and said, "This isn't what I ordered." I panicked for a moment, but then I laughed and said, "Oops, my mistake. Let me fix that for you." He laughed too. "No problem, it happens." That was the moment I realized something important. People don't care if you make small mistakes. No one expects you to be perfect. They just want to communicate. As graduation got closer, I started thinking about my future. My dream was to work in a big company, but I knew that would mean interviews. More speaking, more challenges. One applied to several internships, and after a few weeks, I got an email from a marketing firm called Brightwave Strategies. They wanted to interview me for a summer internship position. My first reaction, excitement. My second reaction, fear. I had never done a formal interview before. What if I froze? What if I couldn't express myself? I spent the next few days preparing. I practiced answering common interview questions, recorded myself speaking, and even did mock interviews with James. On the day of the interview, I walked into their office. my heart pounding the interviewer. A woman named Laura smiled and said, "Tell me about yourself." For a split second, my mind went blank. But then I took a deep breath and reminded myself. Just speak. I started talking about my studies, my part-time job, my experiences. I didn't rush, I focused on the conversation, not my fear. By the end of the interview, Laura smiled and said, "You're confident, Emma." I like that. A few days later, I got the email. I got the internship just when I thought I had conquered my fear of speaking English. Life decided to test me in a way I never expected. It happened on a Friday afternoon. I had just finished my shift at the cafe and was about to head home when my phone rang. It was James. "Emma, are you busy?" he asked, sounding excited. "Not really." "What's up?" "You remember my cousin Ethan? He's visiting from New York. He's with a group of international students, and they need someone to guide them around the city. I thought you'd be perfect for it." Froze guide a group of international students. Me speaking English the whole time. James, I don't know, hesitated. "Come on, Emma. You're great at this now, you'll be fine." He encouraged. A part of me wanted to say no, to run away from the situation. But another part of me, the part that had worked so hard to get here, knew this was my chance to prove to myself that I was ready. So I took a deep breath and said, "Okay, I'll do it." The next morning, I met the group at a central park in the city. There were about 10 of them, all from different countries: Japan, France, Brazil, and Germany. Ethan introduced me as their guide, and suddenly all eyes were on me. For a moment, I felt the old fear creeping back. What if I forgot my words? What if I embarrassed myself? But then I remembered, communication is more important than perfection. So I smiled and started speaking. "Welcome to our city, I'm Emma. And today I'll be showing you some cool places, explaining things. Would you be interested in joining our team?" I blinked in shock. Was this really happening? I had spent years struggling to speak English, and now someone was telling me that I was good at it, that they wanted me to help others. Couldn't believe it. I looked at James, who was grinning at me, and then back at the man I'd love to. I said, my voice steady. That moment I realized I had won. That night, as I lay in bed replaying the day in my mind, I smiled to myself. I had spent so many years afraid to speak, but today I had led a group, answered questions, made people laugh, and even got offered an opportunity because of my English skills. I had won, not against other people, but against my own fear. And that was the greatest victory of all. If you understand English but struggle to speak, you are not alone. Many learners face this challenge. And the biggest reason is not a lack of knowledge. It's fear of making mistakes, fear of being judged, or fear of not finding the right words. But here's the truth. You don't need to be perfect to communicate. You just need to practice. Change your mindset. It's okay to make mistakes. Many people think, I can't speak English until I'm perfect. But waiting for perfection is the biggest mistake. Even native speakers make mistakes when speaking. What matters is communication, not perfection. Accept that mistakes are part of learning. Every mistake helps you improve. Focus on being understood, not on speaking perfectly. Instead of saying, I am not good at English, say, I am improving every day. Imagine you say, yesterday I go to the market. Someone might correct you. Yesterday I went to the market. That's okay. Now you've learned the correct way and won't forget it. Start speaking even if it's small conversations. If you never practice speaking, you will never improve. Many learners only read and write in English, but they never actually speak. Start small. Speak to yourself in English about your day. Talk to a friend who speaks English, or find a language partner. Order food, ask for directions, or have small conversations in English. Instead of just thinking in your native language, try saying, "Today I will practice English. I will go to the store and ask, 'Do you have this item?' I will talk to my friend about my weekend." Even 30 seconds of speaking every day will help you improve. Listen and copy. Learn like a child. Children learn a language by listening and copying, not by studying grammar rules. First, you can do the same. Listen to English everyday movies, podcast songs. Repeat phrases you hear. Try to copy the tone and pronunciation of native speakers. Listen to someone say, "How's it going?" Instead of just understanding it, repeat it aloud. Say just like they do. The more you listen and copy, the more natural your speaking will become. Think in English instead of translating. If you always translate from your native language to English, it slows you down and makes speaking harder. Start with small thoughts. Instead of thinking, "I am hungry" in your native language, and then translating, just think, "I am hungry" in English. Directly describe what you see in English. Look at your room and describe it in English. "My room has a bed, a desk, and a window. The walls are white." The more you practice thinking in English, the easier it will be to speak. Use simple sentences. You don't need fancy words. Many people try to speak in complicated sentences and then get stuck. Simple English is still good English. Start with simple sentences. Use basic words instead of difficult ones. The goal is clear communication, not showing off vocabulary. Instead of saying, "I am feeling a sense of profound exhaustion," just say, "I am very tired." Instead of "I require assistance," just say, "I need help." Practice speaking alone before speaking with others. If you feel too nervous to talk to others, start by talking to yourself first. Stand in front of a mirror and talk about your day. Record your voice and listen to it. Read English books or news aloud to improve pronunciation. Every morning, stand in front of the mirror and say, "Good morning. Today I will study English and go to the park." This builds confidence. Before you start speaking with others, join English speaking groups or clubs. The more you are surrounded by English, the faster you improve. Join English clubs or online communities. Participate in group discussions. Talk to native speakers or other learners. Join online groups like English conversation groups. On Facebook or Discord, find a local meet-up where people practice English together. Speaking in groups reduces fear because everyone is learning together. Use technology to practice. Every day you have a phone. Use it to learn English every day. Use apps like Hello, Talk, or Tandem to talk to native speakers. Change your phone's language to English. Watch English YouTube videos with subtitles, then without subtitles. Instead of watching movies in your native language, watch them in English. Listen to podcasts while traveling or exercising. The more English you hear and use, the faster you will improve. Challenge yourself every week. If you don't push yourself, you won't grow. Set weekly speaking goals. Every week, do something new in English. Celebrate small successes one week. Order food in English the next week. Talk to a stranger in English, then join an English-speaking group. Give a short speech even if it's alone in your room. You've already learned speaking English feels difficult and how to overcome it, but now let's go even deeper into real life strategies that will help you practice. Stay motivated, and finally, speak English fluently with confidence. Speak with a learning partner, not just any native speaker. Many learners think, I need to talk to a native speaker to improve. While talking to native speakers is great, the best person to practice with is someone patient and helpful, not just any native speaker. Some native speakers might speak too fast, use slang, or not correct your mistakes. But a learning partner, another English learner, or a teacher will help you improve step by step. Find a friend, tutor, or language partner who understands your level and helps you improve. Use language exchange apps like Hello, Talk Tandem, or Speaky to find partners. Join an English learning group where people help each other. If you're learning English and your friend is learning your language, practice 30 minutes of English, then 30 minutes of your language. If you find a tutor or mentor, ask them to correct your mistakes kindly and repeat the right way to say things. A good partner can make learning fun and boost your confidence. Use the shadowing technique to sound more natural. Many learners struggle with pronunciation because they don't practice speaking enough. Shadowing helps you speak faster and more naturally. It's when you listen to an English speaker and repeat exactly what they say at the same time. It helps with pronunciation, speaking speed, and intonation. The rise and fall of your voice. Choose a short audio, 1 to 2 minutes, from a podcast, movie, or YouTube video. Listen once to understand the meaning. Listen again and repeat every word at the same time as the speaker. Try to copy their pronunciation exactly. Do it 3 to 5 times until you feel comfortable. Choose a TED Talk, an English speech, or a short scene from your favorite movie. Play it, repeat every word at the same time, and copy the speaker's tone and speed. After a few weeks, your speaking will improve significantly. Recording yourself while speaking English is one of the best ways to track your progress and build confidence. Many learners feel nervous because they don't know how they sound in English. However, when you record yourself and listen, you can notice your improvements and correct mistakes. A simple way to do this is by choosing a short topic and speaking for 1 to 2 minutes. Use your phone to record yourself and then listen carefully. Pay attention to how clear your words sound. Are there any words you mispronounce? Do you hesitate too much? Try again. And keep practicing until you feel more comfortable. To make this method even more effective, compare your recordings over time. For example, in the first week, record yourself saying something simple, like introducing yourself. Hi, my name is Emma. I live in New York. Today I went to work and had lunch with my friend. Then after a month, record yourself again. Listen to both recordings and compare them. You will likely hear big improvements. Recording yourself regularly will not only improve your pronunciation, but also boost your confidence because you will see real progress. Instead of focusing too much on grammar rules, learning chunks of language can make speaking English much easier. Grammar is important, but native speakers do not usually think about grammar when they speak. Instead, they use common phrases or chunks that naturally go together. Learning these chunks will help you speak faster and more naturally. For example, instead of memorizing individual words, learn phrases that are commonly used in conversations. Rather than thinking about how to say hello in different ways, learn entire phrases like, hey, how's it going, or nice to see you again. Instead of struggling to put words together when asking for help, memorize phrases like, could you give me a hand, or can you help me with this? The more chunks you learn, the more natural your English will sound, and you won't have to translate everything in your head. Watching English TV shows and movies is a great way to improve your listening and speaking skills, but you need to do it the right way. Just watching is not enough. You need to actively learn from them. The best method is to watch in steps. First, watch with subtitles in your language. to understand the meaning. Then watch again with English subtitles to learn new words and phrases. After that, try watching without subtitles. To improve your listening skills, finally pause and repeat difficult sentences out loud. This will help you with pronunciation and speaking speed. Certain TV shows are great for English learners. For example, Friends is useful for learning casual conversations. In American slang, The Big Bang Theory helps with understanding fast speech, and Humor the Office is perfect for learning workplace conversations. Harry Potter is great for clear pronunciation. By watching and repeating dialogue from these shows, you will learn English naturally while enjoying entertainment. Speaking English every day is the fastest way to improve. Many learners wait until they feel ready, but the best way to improve is to start now. Even if you only practice for 5 minutes a day, it will make a big difference over time. You don't need a language partner to practice. You can speak to yourself or in front of a mirror. You can also describe things around you in English to build fluency. Replace small parts of your daily routine with English. For example, instead of thinking in your native language while cooking, try thinking in English. Say things like, I need to chop the onions. Or now I will add some salt. Every morning, say something in English to yourself, such as today I will practice speaking English. I am improving every day the more you speak. The faster you will gain confidence. Remember, you are already closer to fluency than you think. Understanding English is the hardest part, and you've already done that. You don't need perfect grammar to communicate. The goal is to be understood. The key to fluency is confidence and practice. Building a daily speaking routine will help you develop fluency faster. Many learners don't practice speaking every day because they think they need a partner. But you can improve by speaking alone. A simple method is to practice speaking for at least 10 minutes daily. Choose a topic and talk out loud, even if no one is listening. Using a voice recorder will help you track your progress. You can also follow a daily speaking plan. In the morning, describe your plans for the day. Today, I will go to work, study English, and meet a friend. In the afternoon, talk about what you are doing. I am drinking coffee and reading an article. In the evening, reflect on your day. Today, I learned 3 new English words. The more you make speaking English a daily habit, the more natural it will become. Being able to handle real-life situations in English is important for confidence. You don't need to memorize everything, but knowing how to respond in common situations will make you feel more prepared. Practice simple conversations, such as ordering food at a restaurant. Hi, I'd like a cheeseburger with fries, please. When paying at a store, practice asking, do you accept credit cards or can I get a receipt? Please, if you meet someone new, practice introducing yourself. Hi, my name is Emma. Nice to meet you. Small talk is also useful. How's your day going? Or it's nice weather today. Practicing these common situations will make speaking English in real life much easier. Overcoming shyness is one of the biggest challenges for English learners. Many people are afraid of making mistakes, but mistakes are a natural part of learning. Native speakers do not expect perfect grammar. They just want to understand you. If you feel too nervous to talk to someone, start by talking to yourself. Then practice with a friend or join a conversation group. If you need time to think while speaking, use filler words like well, or you know. Speaking poorly is better than not speaking at all. For example, if someone asks, what do you do, and you feel nervous, instead of staying silent, say, well, I am a student, I study business, and I want to work in marketing. Even if it's not perfect, You have successfully communicated your message, and that is progress. Staying motivated is key to improving your English. When you don't see immediate progress, it's easy to feel frustrated. That's why tracking your progress is important. Keep an English journal and write at least one sentence about what you did. Record a short video of yourself speaking English every month and compare it to previous recordings. Celebrate small victories, like speaking English with a stranger or ordering food in English. For example, in week 1, you might be able to say 5 sentences in English. By week 4, you may be able to have a conversation with a waiter. The more progress you see, the more motivated you will be to continue. Patience is essential when learning a language. Many learners give up because they expect fluency too quickly. However, learning English is like learning an instrument. It takes daily practice. Instead of setting unrealistic goals, like I want to be fluent, focus on small improvements each day. Compare your progress to your past self, not to others. Remember, even native speakers make mistakes. After 1 month of daily practice, you will feel more confident speaking. After 3 months, you will understand more conversations. After 6 months, you will be able to speak naturally in daily situations. The key is to keep going even when progress feels slow. Every time you speak English, you are improving. You already understand the language. And now you have strategies to practice and improve. Speak every day, make mistakes without fear. Track your progress, stay patient, and enjoy the journey of becoming fluent in English. After receiving that unexpected job offer, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Was I really ready to help others learn English? Just a year ago, the thought of speaking in front of people terrified me. Now someone believed I had enough confidence to teach. James, my close friend, saw the hesitation in my eyes and encouraged me. Emma, you've already helped yourself. Now you can help others and trust me. Teaching will make you even better. His words gave me the push I needed, and I decided to take another step. Outside my comfort zone, I called the man from the restaurant, the one who had offered me the opportunity. His name was David. He ran a language exchange center, a place where people from all backgrounds gathered to improve their English. We agreed to meet the following weekend. And just like that, my journey as a mentor began. When I arrived at the center, I expected to see a small group of students gathered in a quiet classroom. Instead, the place was buzzing with energy. There were people from all over the world, students, professionals, even older adults, each of them eager to improve their English. David greeted me with a warm smile and led me to a group of beginners. They just need someone to practice with. He explained, just have a conversation with them. At first, I felt a familiar wave of nervousness. What if I messed up? What if they realized I wasn't perfect? But as I looked around at their faces, I saw no judgment, only eagerness. They were just like me, people who wanted to improve but were scared to speak. I took a deep breath and smiled. Hi everyone. My name is Emma. Just a short while ago, I was in your place. I understood English but struggled to speak. But I found some tricks that helped me, and I'd love to share them with you. Their eyes lit up with interest. They wanted to know how I had overcome my fear. I told them about shadowing, where I repeated sentences from movies to practice pronunciation. I explained how thinking in English helped me stop translating everything in my head. I shared my experience of forcing myself to speak daily, even if it was just to order coffee at a cafe. And then something amazing happened. They started speaking too. One by one, they introduced themselves, their sentences hesitant but determined. By the end of the session, a woman named Sophia from Brazil said, Emma, you give me hope if you did it. Maybe I can too at that moment. I felt something shift inside me. For years, I had doubted my abilities. But now, I was giving others the confidence I once lacked. My journey wasn't just about improving my English. Anymore, it was about helping others find their voices. Too, as I continued volunteering. At the Language Exchange Center, my confidence grew. I spoke English every day, helped others, and met people from diverse cultures. Then one evening, David approached me with an announcement that caught me completely off guard. Emma, we have a special guest tomorrow. A CEO from a big company. He wants to observe our sessions. And I'd like you to lead the conversation group. My heart pounded. Led a group in front of a CEO. I wanted to say no. I wanted to tell David that I wasn't good enough. But then I thought about everything I had learned. All the moments where I had pushed past my fear. So instead, I swallowed my nerves and said, I'll do it the next day. I stood in front of 20 students. The CEO sat quietly in the back observing. My hands trembled, but I reminded myself why I was there. I wasn't here to be perfect. I was here to communicate. So I started leading the discussion, asking questions, encouraging students to share, and even telling a funny story about my own struggles. After the session, the CEO approached me. Emma, I'm impressed. He said, you have a natural ability to make people feel comfortable. We need trainers like you in corporate settings. Have you ever thought about teaching professionally? I was speechless a year ago. I had been too afraid to even introduce myself in English. Now someone believed I could teach it professionally. That night, I sat by my window looking out at the city lights. I thought about the girl I used to be. The one who was too scared to order coffee, too nervous to speak in class. If I could go back and talk to her, I would say, one day you'll speak without fear. One day people will look up to you for guidance. One day you'll inspire others. Just keep going. A few days later, David approached me again. Emma, I have an opportunity for you. One of our corporate clients is looking for a language coach to help their employees improve their spoken English. It's a paid position and blank. Paid position me teaching professionals. David smiled. I know it sounds scary. But you're ready. You've been leading groups here. You connect with people. That's more important than perfect English. Hesitated. My instinct was to say no. But then I thought, what if I was ready? So I took another deep breath and said, I'd love to do it a week later. I walked into the offices of Metrotech Solutions, a growing company that had hired me to train their employees in conversational English. I was greeted by Lisa, the HR manager. Our employees understand English, but struggle with confidence, just like you once did. That's why we thought you'd be a great fit. Her words gave me courage. They hired me because of my journey, not despite it, but when I entered the meeting room and saw 10 professional software engineers, designers, and managers all waiting for me to teach them, the nerves hit me again. What if they questioned my ability? What if they expected a real teacher? I took a deep breath and introduced myself. Hi, everyone. My name is Emma. I understand exactly how you feel. Because I was just like you. I understood English, but couldn't speak. I was afraid of making mistakes. But I found ways to overcome that fear. And today I want to share them with you. Their expressions softened relief, curiosity, even excitement. They weren't here to judge me. They were here to learn, so I started the session. I asked them to introduce themselves. Some hesitated just like I once did. A man named Rahul admitted, I know English, but when I speak, I forget words. Smile. That used to happen to me, too. But don't worry, we'll work on it together for the next hour. We practice thinking in English, having casual conversations, and even role-playing office scenarios. By the end, everyone was speaking more confidently. Lisa, the HR manager, had watched the entire session. When it ended, she approached me. That was amazing. Would you be open to working with us long-term? I could hardly believe it. A long-term job teaching English, helping professionals speak with confidence. I felt a surge of pride as I answered, I'd love to. That night I reflected on how much had changed. Just a year ago, I was too afraid to even raise my hand in class. Now I was helping professionals improve their English. I thought about every small step that had brought me here. The first time I ordered coffee, the time I practiced speaking with James, the day I gave my first presentation. Every challenge had led me to this moment. And then an email arrived. We'd love to invite you as a guest speaker to share your journey of overcoming the fear of speaking English. Let us know if you're interested. I read it twice, a guest speaker, me. The thought of speaking in front of a crowd still terrified me, but I knew what I had to do. I took a deep breath and replied, I'd be honored. Professionals from different countries filled the seminar hall. These were people who, just like me, had struggled with English at some point. I took a deep breath, studied my nerves, and stepped onto the stage. Hello, everyone. I began, my voice carrying through the room. My name is Emma, and just a year ago, I was too scared to even introduce myself in English. I saw heads lift, eyes focusing on me. The silence in the room told me they were listening. Continued, I knew English. I could watch movies and understand books. But when it came to speaking, I felt stuck. I was afraid of making mistakes. I worried that people would judge me. So for years, I stayed silent. I paused, scanning the faces in the crowd. Some nodded as if they understood exactly what I meant. But then I realized something. I said, my voice growing steadier. The only way to get better was to start speaking, even if it wasn't perfect. So I started small. I ordered coffee in English. I had short conversations with strangers. I pushed myself a little more each day. And now here I am standing in front of all of you. For a moment there was silence. Then the room erupted into applause. I smiled, feeling a deep sense of pride. This was the moment I had once thought was impossible. After the seminar, people came up to me. A man from Japan shook my hand. Your story inspired me, he said. I've been afraid to speak English for years. But now I want to try. A woman from Germany smiled. I realized I've been too hard on myself. I need to practice more and stop worrying about mistakes. Then Lisa, the HR manager, approached me. Emma, she said, her eyes shining. You're not just a language coach anymore. You're a motivational speaker. I laughed, shaking my head. A year ago, I wouldn't have believed her. But now it felt right. That night as I walked home, I thought about how much had changed. I once believed that speaking English fluently was impossible for me. But now I had not only improved, but I had also helped others do the same. This was just the beginning. I had learned something important. Confidence in English isn't about being perfect. It's about being brave enough to speak. If you're reading this and struggling with English, I want you to remember something. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to wait until you feel ready. You just have to start, because every time you speak, you are one step closer to fluency. And one day, just like me, you'll look back and realize how far you've come. If you found this story helpful and inspiring, Don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you want more content like this, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification so you never miss a new video. Your support means a lot and helps us bring you more valuable lessons. See you in the next one.